finding the right property managers and finding the right teams. And so many of the markets I invested in is not because they're the best market, because I found really, really good team players, rock star team members that were able to give me the confidence to invest and continue to invest in those markets.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the General Art of Crushing It podcast. My name is Nathan with Undor Properties. I'm your Monday host. I am one of 5 hosts who bring you conversations 3 times a week on a variety of topics around real estate, business, and personal motivation. Our goal with this podcast is to help you succeed in whatever target you're aiming at. We're all committed to finding the best and the brightest people who aren't just talking about doing big things, but are actually taking the steps to achieve their dreams and wanting to help others along the way. And today is no different. I have the fortunate pleasure and honor of hosting Omni, the investor guy. He has done so much in his life for himself, for his family, in his real estate business, from being the #1 surfboard seller in Hawaii to growing one of the largest real estate investing free masterminds. He's got such a fantastic story. Can't wait to share it with everyone. So let's just hop into the conversation. Awesome. Omni, welcome. Omni is with us, everyone. And you may also know him as Omni, the investor guy. Omni, welcome. How you doing today?
Nathan, I'm awesome. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I'm super excited to have this conversation. You were obviously featured on Bigger Pockets podcast episodes a year or 2 ago, I think you said, but more importantly, you got so many interesting things going on that I'm, excited to hop into and hear more about. But before we do that, Omni, why don't you kick us off with just telling us what's your story? What's your background? Where have you found success? And maybe if you have something interesting that not many people know about you to share with us, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So I like to say I'm unemployed at the moment. My wife hates it when I say that, but I guess it sounds more interesting than financially free or retired. Intentionally unemployed, never plan to be employed again. Blessed to get to that point through real estate investing. So I've been doing it for over 20 years. I grew up in Hawaii, where my family still lives. I currently am in Northern Virginia, just outside of DC market. I've been thinking about, I've told my story many, many times over. Something I don't talk about quite often is, growing up, I was homeschooled, which is, not the normal path. And I kind of give credit to my parents for kind of going down a unique path. And I really, the more I think about it, being homeschooled all the way through high school, up until high school, we decided to go to high school so we can play sports. But that really kind of gave me a kickstart to have my entrepreneurial kind of mindset. My real estate wasn't a part of my family growing up. We didn't really understand that. My parents, no one was a real estate investor in my family, but I was blessed to be around business owners and entrepreneurs. And, as a kid, when you're told here's a week worth of work you need to get done, and it's Monday, and you can take a week to do it, or you can cram it all in 2 days. And guess what? Now you have 3 days to goof off or possibly go start a business. And luckily I've had a lot of time as a kid to start and grow businesses, some that were successful, some that failed. But I feel blessed to have been in that situation. So I owe a lot to my upbringing, my parents, having an amazing family to continue to support me, but stumbled across real estate investing at some point in my life. And I've been doing that, some form of real estate investing for over 20 years. And we have a few hundred rental properties, and we're all about passive income. And since I've, quote unquote, retired, what I'm focusing on is an education kind of community called the Cashflow Breakfast Club. And we do a lot of coaching and educating. And it's, kind of more of a nonprofit in terms of us trying to give back to the community. So that's me in a nutshell. And there's probably a lot of things we can pull out of that, along the way.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear, because you said something like I stumbled into real estate, like so many of us have. And like I've heard so many people say, what does that stumbling look like for you? Can you paint that picture a little bit more?
Yeah, so I was, I I worked at a surf shop in Hawaii. So if you've ever been to
Of
Hawaii,
course.
Oahu, the main island, there's Haleiwa. There's a surf shop called Surf and Sea. At one point, I think they were the number one surf shop in the world, and I was the number one surf shop salesman in the world. So I was really good at selling surfboards. And then I was saying, okay, how do I turn this into a business? And I basically I found people would come in and sell their surfboards on consignment. Not all of them would the owners want to buy. And so the ones that they would turn down, I would go and say, I'll buy it. And I basically fixed and flipped surfboards for a profit and made decent money doing that while I was making decent money selling surfboards, decent money for a teenager, selling surfboards. And then just realized, all right, I'm really good at adding value to things and selling them at a margin. What else can I be doing? And then real estate was the obvious decision, and knew nothing about real estate. I just started to read books. I found Rich Dad Poor Dad. I started to talk to everyone I could about real estate and asked them about, hey, do you own real estate? Are you a real estate investor? And that's how I found my first mentor, quote unquote mentor, selling him a surfboard at that surf shop. Me just saying, I want to talk about real estate. Do you own real estate? And most people are like, yeah, I own my home, but no, I want to talk about being an investor, and found the right person that was interested enough to talk to me about it. And that kind of put me down a path, a rabbit hole of this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
Before we jump into the show, we wanted to let you know that this episode is brought to you by EveryREITool.com. Every REI Tool is the most comprehensive online catalog of resources for real estate investors and professionals. Whether you are looking for the best deal analyzer, the most loved syndication platform, fix and flip rehab calculators, dialers, lead generation solutions, rent collectors, or the next real estate book to read, every REI Tool has it all. Quickly and easily find the best software, apps, services, books, podcasts, and courses to help accelerate and grow your real estate business by heading over to EveryREITool.com. And don't forget to sign up to get exclusive product reviews, promos, and discount codes. EveryREITool.com. Now, on to the show.
You said, you again, you stumbled upon real estate, right? And it's kind of after, your experience, being able to sell and provide value. And then you said something like, I just, real estate felt like the right spot. But you also mentioned earlier that no one really in your family and entourage was really into real estate. So how did you, I'm just curious, was it just happenstance that you said, oh, real estate's a good thing? Why not like cars, right? Or technology, or, the hospitality industry being in, Hawaii?
Yeah, I feel blessed that I did go down the path, because it could have easily been, I was looking at cars. I was looking at other things, like what could I resell? And I just got to like, what's the highest ticket price, like the higher. So I realized if I bought a $50 surfboard and I fixed it up, then this was my typical margin. But if I bought a $800 surfboard and I fixed it up, then the margins were better. So I'm like, how do I get my product to be more and more expensive? And then real estate was the most expensive thing that I can think of that was, within reason. And so that put me down that path. And obviously that purple book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, without reading that, I don't know if I would have went all in. That really helped, I wouldn't say change my mindset, but more confirmed like the weirdness of how I just always felt that I was different. Like I was thinking things differently. What I wanted to talk about with my friends and my family, it just wasn't what they wanted to talk about. So it tied into that business side of me. And, I just realized that real estate was the business that I wanted to be in.
Yeah. And I'm curious if you could help us understand also kind of your first, I don't know if a first deal maybe, but like when you get started, right? So, okay, so it's real estate for me. That's what I want to do. Real estate investing, not just owning a house, like a lot of people that you were talking to seem to share. So you go all in, you figure out that's what you want to do. You're in Hawaii, not exactly a cheap market, right? So what did you start with in terms of real estate? What was your first, like, I guess, quote unquote, doing air quotes here, transaction, right? So you're curious to hear about that.
So I was able to be involved of multiple transactions before I did my own transaction. And how I did that was I just figured out how to add value to my mentor. He didn't know he's my mentor. I didn't ask him, will you be my mentor? But this person that said, yeah, we'll talk about that. And literally while I'm selling the surfboard, I just tried to like figure out what can I do to add value to this person so that I can have a conversation outside of this surf shop, and just really, really dig into the knowledge and value that he had. I had no concept of mentorships at that time. But he was telling me about a pain point about, hey, tomorrow I got to meet a contractor and he canceled on me twice. And it's something as simple as changing out a bathroom sink. And I grew up in a construction family. My dad owned his own construction company, roofing company. I'm like, I could do that. What is that? I'll show up tomorrow and I'll do this. Okay, well, what's your price? I'm like, no, there's no price. I'll do that for free. Like, all we got to do is talk about real estate while I'm doing it. And that would be like an amazing day off for me. He's like, okay. And so I did that. So I showed up to this place, did some work that was causing him a pain point. It was very easy for me, and I just tried to find as many opportunities as I could. And he basically said, okay, I'm at this project. And I asked him, well, we're at this property. What are you going to do with it? All right. And he was doing the BRRRR strategy before the BRRRR strategy was even invented. Right. Like, okay, that sounds interesting. I don't even know what a refinance is, but that's cool. Right. So he's kind of walking me through this. Probably 3 or 4 of those deals or transactions over a few week period. And I just said, I need to be a real estate investor. I know there's so much that I don't know, but this is what I need to be doing. And I said, how do I get into a deal? How do I do a deal with you? Or how do I do my first deal? And he said, all right, one of the most important lessons that he taught me, and I've taught this to many people, like in every real estate transaction, there's 3 roles. That's it. There's only 3 roles in every transaction. Someone's got to bring the deal. You got to find a deal. Someone's got to bring the money, fund the deal, and someone's got to know what they're doing. Someone needs to be the developer, the experience of the deal. And he's like, which of those 3 roles do you play? Now he's like, I play all 3 of these roles often. Like I find my own deals often. I fund my own deals, and I clearly have my experience. I've been doing this for a while. And he looks at me, he's like, you have no experience, so you can't play that role. And you work at a surf shop. My guess is you don't have a lot of money to bring to a deal. And he was right. Like, you don't make a lot of money. So I thought, my few $1,000s in the bank was going to be enough, not enough, right? So I needed to learn how to find a deal. And that really gave me so much clarity of I needed to be a real estate investor. I need to figure out how to get into a deal. And for me, with no experience and no money, I needed to understand the art of deal finding. And so I became a deal finder. I found him deals, brought him deals. Wholesaling wasn't a term back then, but I wasn't really interested in selling it for a fee, which I did a few times. It really was, how do I bring this deal to you? You say it's such a good deal that I'm going to give you equity and I'm going to take over. So I earned equity in deals that I found and I brought to them. And I was able to do this multiple times with, multiple quote unquote mentors over the years. And that helped me kind of build up my confidence, build up my transaction value. And as whether we had an exit or whether it was cash flow, was able to save that up and put that into starting to invest in my own properties on my own.
And at the time, was this all in Hawaii or not necessarily? It was across the U.S.?
Yeah, with them, it was in Hawaii. My personal first transaction was in Hawaii as well. It was a condo hotel. And so it's a unique zoning. So if you go to a hotel, sometimes each of those units, those rooms are actually owned individually by someone else. Yep. You might be renting it from someone, but it's owned by someone else. And it's a unique asset class there, hard to get financing on. So, me digging into understanding creative financing definitely helped. A year into my path, I got my real estate license as well. Not because I wanted to be a real estate professional, but because I just saw that as a way to get more information. And so that kind of opened up a lead flow for me. And I've been kind of doing both ever since. So yeah, the condo hotel, short-term rental before Airbnb exists. We did it through the condo pool is what they called. I quickly got priced out of Hawaii though. So that made me eventually figure out I needed to understand how to find markets and invest in markets outside of Hawaii that I could actually afford. And I did start to invest remotely after that.
And how was that beginning of, or how was the beginning, I guess, of that part of your journey? Because that's, oftentimes, the folks that I talk to, and we were talking about this before we hit record, right? I live in a high cost of living area, and very often the people that I talk to, the instinctual first response is, well, we can't do that here because it's, too expensive, it won't cash flow. You need too much money for down payment, so on and so forth, which may be all true. albeit, I think you could find a deal in any market, right? But that's also why we decided to start investing ourselves remotely. It sounds like you're doing something very similar. I'm curious to hear what that phase of your investing journey was like.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I probably just before this had a coaching call with somebody that was starting out from the very beginning, and they're saying the exact same thing. We live in a very high priced area, average right around $1 million or so, and it doesn't cash flow in this market. Can I invest in this market? And I usually tell everyone I don't have enough information. I don't. So you can invest in any market, just like you said. It really depends on your strategy, but your strategy needs to match kind of what your goals are. And what are your goals? Is your goal to get passive income through passive income, financial freedom? Okay, then that's a very specific type of asset class. There's a lot of people that want to invest and that is not their goal, and that's okay. They don't need the cash flow. They love their job. They're going to be working and they are okay with that. And they're looking at future, or they're looking at setting up their generational wealth and or a big exit, at some point that's going to help them. So it all depends on your plan. I hated the idea of having to work, and I hated the idea of needing, although I tried to retire twice now and I hated it. So I realized I'm not meant to not do things, but I hate to have to do things. And so I said, how do I get as quick as possible to my financial freedom number? And I, through math, through my mentor, was able to figure out I needed X amount of dollars to be financially free. It wasn't a lot as a single person. And how many rental properties do I need cash flow wise? And I went to try to find markets that would meet that cash flow requirement. Because I knew that if I had the cash flow to meet my minimum needs, then I would have the freedom not to sit on the beach and do nothing, but the freedom to take bigger risks, the freedom to do different types of investments, or to start businesses and not be afraid for those businesses to fail, because I have the backing of my passive income through that process. So I identified markets that, when you live in Hawaii, it's Hawaii and everywhere else. Literally, it's hard for us, growing up, to understand the difference between, Ohio and Florida and all these other states, which sounds crazy, but the reality is it's so foreign. It's just almost like another country growing up. So it was literally, I was like just pulling up pins in the map and just trying to find agents and people in certain areas and ask them about their market. Not a lot of resources, no, bigger pockets at that point. Zillow was fairly new, and so the online data was limited, and so it really was me becoming an agent that allowed me to kind of connect with agents in other markets and get the information that way about their market. And I was looking for a high cash flow market that that I was comfortable investing in, but I could also find the right team, because I knew that I could not afford to fly to Georgia when my rental properties were having an issue. I needed a right team in place. And so it was through my agent, finding the right property managers and finding the right teams. And so many of the markets I invested in is not because they're the best market, because I found really, really good team players, rock star team members that were able to give me the confidence to invest and continue to invest in those markets.
I'm so happy you said that, because you're making my job a whole lot easier today, because I always fight with people that, want to get into real estate and like, okay, show me how to analyze a deal. Show me how to analyze a deal. Is this a good deal or not? And I always, respond to that with, have you found and built your team yet? And just like you said, I just believe it's one of the most important, if not the most important thing to focus on in the beginning, especially if you're not going to be self-managing, if you're not going to be the one taking care of the properties, the tenants and everything else, if you're not, close to them. So that's awesome. Do you have any tips for how to build your team? I mean, it sounds like you got referrals maybe through your real estate agent, network, and talking to other agents. Do you have any other tips for our audience around kind of how to build that team and what's most important?
Yeah, and it depends on your investment strategy. So if your investment is long-term rentals, then obviously your property manager is the most important. I started getting to the BRRRR strategy, so a really good contractor team or teams became very important as well for that to be successful. But starting out, just buying rental properties that cash flowed, by far the right property manager, the right agent. And so if you find a rock star of either one of those, they usually know a rock star property manager knows a rock star agent. A rock star agent knows a rock star property manager. And it was as simple as white pages, Google, calling them up and just talking to them. And the reality is, when it comes to, I can say this because I've been a real estate broker and an investor for so long, and I know so many property managers. any agent and any property manager has the potential to be terrible. Even if they're amazing, they could be terrible to you based on your expectations not being met. And it's often like that was a terrible relationship. It's often like I just could not communicate my expectations or didn't communicate my expectations, and they weren't meeting it. And so thus it was a terrible relationship. So I got better at communicating early on what my expectations were in terms of almost like not a job interview, but casting my vision. And so I had the frustration of I'm a small fish in their pond trying to buy my first property. And why were they going to give me any time of day? Right, because I'm the 10th person that called them that day about finding information about the rental market or whatever it is. How do I cast my vision of I'm more than that? Right? I'm going to be more than that. And so I told them what my vision was. Like I want to own 50 properties in this neighborhood. Like I want to be your number one client. How do I become your number one client? And so that became a standard question I asked every property manager, because why would they, like, let's say I am one of their clients and I own one property, but they have 200 other clients with 2,000 other properties. There's no way that I can be their priority. It just doesn't make sense. No. So I asked them, how do I become your priority? What are you saying? No, how do I become your number one client? Just be open to me. How many properties do I need to own and you manage for me to be your number one client? And I start with there. And like, why are you asking that? Because I want to be the most important person in your life. And the only way I'm going to do that is by committing to be your number one client. If I'm growing the way I want to grow, I can become your number one client. And then we're going to grow together. And, we're almost growing this business. They have a 10% stake in my business through their fees. That's really what it comes down to. They have this equity stake in my success. And if I can cast that vision of this relationship with one person is not 1 or 2 properties over the next 10 years, it's 50 properties over the next few years. Now they're more motivated to help me and hopefully send me deals because I told them what I want to do, how I want to scale and how I want to grow. So a lot of my partners found me those off-market deals. Property managers particularly played a heavy role in my growth.
Yeah, I love it. I have a very similar story when we started building our team with the property manager as well. I was like, how many do I need to buy to be important to you, essentially? And how many do I need to buy for me to be able to get this fee of yours versus what you advertise online? Because it said, I can't make the numbers work for me with your advertised fee. And I need this reduced fee. And it was just like, same thing. I know it's my first, with you folks, but I'm planning on doing a whole lot more. And that's how it kind of got me in the door. And I'm very happy with my team. So couldn't relate more. Yep. I'm curious on that. What does, I like to ask, what does success mean to you today? And maybe how has that evolved over time? Obviously from, selling surfboards to trying to retire twice, you said, to where you're at now and all of the different things that you're doing. What does success mean to you and how has that changed over time?
If you asked me what was important to me in my 20s, like I could care less what people thought of me. Like legacy and impact had no bearing on what I did. Like I was like, how do I put my head down and grind and come up financially free, not caring about anything else. So I went through that financial freedom phase in my 20s. My 30s, I got married. I have 3 amazing kids, and you start to think differently once you have a family. I'm like, okay, it's not about me anymore. So it's about this generational wealth. What does that look like? What systems can I put in place? What relationships can I start to form? And so much of what my investing and my businesses that I ran were about, trying to be a good father, be a good husband, and how do I maximize my time with my kids? And I haven't been great at that by any means. I'm still trying to figure that out. But it changed. It changed what my daily routine looked like. I just hit 40, and it like for whatever reason, I feel like. So my wife, when she was pregnant, she's like had these cravings, right? I'm sure a lot of people had cravings, and it's like you do some research. Why do they have cravings? Sometimes there's maybe a deficiency in their diet, and they're like that kid needs, right? And so that's why they need these pickles or whatever it is. But it's almost like I feel like there's a deficiency in me of impact. Like I've gone so long without making an impact and without trying to make an impact, and like everything I do right now has to like pass through my impact filter. I turn down deals all the time that are amazing deals. But if I can't make an impact with it, like if it's not close enough for my kids to be involved, or if I can't bring in friends or family, or if it can't be an education moment to teach people, it almost doesn't make sense because we don't need to do the deal. So I'm trying to run everything through this impact filter, and I'm really, really thinking about like, what is the legacy? And that's something that my 20-year-old self didn't care about. My 30-year-old self did not care about at all. And now that's the only thing I care about. So I'm trying to set up, not just the way I invest, but the way I spend my time, the masterminds that I'm a part of, the masterminds that I run, the coaching that I take part of, the coaching that I provide, is all about the impact. If I'm gone tomorrow, like what is there left? If I'm gone 10 years from now, what have I actually left that's meaningful? And it really came down to, I have one skill that I know of. I know how to make money and become financially free. That's all I really know, because that's all I've done. And so I can't coach people on how to be an awesome dad, because I'm still figuring that out. I can't coach people on how to be an awesome husband, but I can coach people on how to make money and how to become financially free. And so that's really like the last several years of my life has been nothing but running that coaching through what we call the Cashflow Breakfast Club. It's these free communities, and I coach leaders to run communities, their own Cashflow Breakfast Club, basically, where every month people show up and they give intense coaching and training to them. They give like masterminds. You're probably a part of some masterminds. I'm a part of many masterminds, and many of those are very high ticket, which I think is very worth it. I spend a lot of money every year on masterminds, but I think most people, especially starting out, don't have that mindset, or won't spend that money, or maybe can't spend that money yet. So we want to make that mastermind community, that mastermind benefit available to everyone through the expansion of the Cashflow Breakfast Club. So we had 2 locations when I retired, at the beginning of this year, and we've been expanding full force. We're up to 22 locations now nationwide, and we're trying to get to 100 locations within the next year and become the largest real estate investor education, in-person education mastermind event there is.
I love it. Well, congrats on that. That's fantastic. And it's a great mission. But I'm curious, because it can't all be success and rainbows and unicorns and ponies and whatnot. How about some juicy, like incredibly difficult times in your life that you feel comfortable obviously sharing? Do you have any of those that you could talk about and maybe, help our audience understand, what the situation was, obviously, but kind of what mindset you had, or what your mind, I guess, was going through to kind of help you get out of that situation?
Yeah, there's so many, probably more failures than there are successes. And the reality is, and that's what I love about real estate. When you fail in real estate, it's usually not the end of the world. Like, okay, you lost some money, or you broke even, or whatever it is. And then you just need to do small successes, and those small successes outweigh those failures over the long run. And so I've been blessed to just not have given up, because I've had failures where I should have given up, and I'd be in a total different space at this point. I published a book called The Cashflow Breakfast Club. I actually put that in the story. It's about this character that grew up in Hawaii. It's a power parable format of teaching, kind of what I learned through my life experiences. But I put a few of my hurdles and my failures in that, me trying to buy, a property and really running into some title issues of just not being able to close, and just through what should be a disaster of losing some money or having to come up with tremendous amount of funds in a short period of time, using that as a way through my mentorship's guidance, how to problem solve. How do you overcome that? And how do you take, lemons of, no, you can't close on that property that you're going to be moving into next week, into a creative situation. One situation where we ended up being able to, not close on the property because of title issues for the seller. But we were able to renegotiate with them and basically do a lease to own. We couldn't close on it, but we basically were able to do that and still commit to the house hack that we wanted to do through that process. Now, it delayed the purchase, almost a year. Frustrating process, in between, but learning how to overcome some of those objections. And then I think most of us that have been investing for at least a few years went through some sort of tragedy during the COVID process. I had probably 8 or 9 renovations going on, and what should have been probably a three-month renovation of a house ended up being 18 months, right? So everything gets shut down. Contractors, aren't able to work, can't get permits, can't get people to come out there. And if you're budgeting for 3 months of renovation and it goes to 18 months, you can't make that profitable. There's no way. And so it's just, how do you still make that work in the grand scheme of your portfolio? And still, take those bruises and learn from them. So yeah, a lot of delayed renovations, taking on too many projects and not having the foresight or the right, systems in place to kind of handle that pause that we went through was tough as well.
What do you think your superpower is that helped you get through all these stories, right? Is it tenacity? Is, in the sense, not ever giving up? Is it being able to maybe keep like the long view and kind of this long-term picture of the world you want to build for you and your family, front of mind, which was enough drive? Was it just the people you knew, all of the above? What was your secret, your superpower, I guess?
Yeah, I wish we all knew exactly what that one thing was, right? So I think more than anything, the mentors, the coaches, and the masterminds, right? Whether it's a mastermind that you're a part of, whether it's one that you started, completely have been essential my entire career. But as we're talking about specifically overcoming objections and maybe. There's just so many ups and downs in entrepreneurship in general, but being a real estate investor, so many ups and downs. You only hear about the ups on, Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, yes.
Rarely people share the downs, but there's more downs than there are ups. And so it really is, you need a really good, the why, but the vision, right? So I've been, through my mentors and masterminds, I'm blessed to learn vision casting. And so it's like casting out your vision. It's not a vision board, but it's casting out your vision 3 years out, 5 years out, and just knowing you're going to get there and seeing yourself there. And, almost like we just did a mastermind getaway weekend with some buddies of mine last week. And we spent 3 days on writing out our vision. 3 years from now, where do we see our business? Where do we see our life? And I don't logically see how I'm going to get there. But you cast that vision and then you start working your way backwards and you realize there's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way in that path. And so if you're already predicting bumps and bruises and you got to overcome something, you don't know what it is, it makes the bumps and bruises when they come a little bit more tolerable and say, oh, this is part of the plan. This is part of the plan. Yeah. I cast a big vision and there's no way anyone is in the right mind going to say I got there with 0 hurdles or 0 obstacles. So it does allow you to pull back on your own path and have that, 10,000 foot view that usually only that coach or mentor can have, looking at your situation, but you can kind of become your own coach and mentor when you vision cast out several years.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I couldn't agree more. And what would you do differently if you could go back to the surf shop back in time at that point in your life? What would you do differently maybe to, I don't know if I want to say fast track your success or maybe get to where you are now, if that's your ideal place, right? Faster. What would you do differently?
Yeah, I love my path. I do. But I made so many mistakes. Clearly there's mistakes that I would try to avoid just because, or a lot of my mistakes actually were probably taking too long to do some things, right? I'm an analyzer, so I'm okay taking a certain amount of risk, but I really overanalyze things and I dig into it, and there's value in that. But I probably would be taking more risks because the asymmetric bet of like just even we talked about within real estate failure. We think worst case scenario, but the worst case scenario in most of my real estate transactions is I break even. Like that's the worst case scenario in so many of my transactions. And I'm thinking failure, is I'm losing everything. I'm rarely in a situation where I can lose everything. But the upside of that investment paying off or that business venture paying off is just like tenfold, right? And so I would have taken more risks and learned to analyze earlier that asymmetric bet of worst case scenario is not that bad. I'm still okay. Let's say this business fails, I can still go get a job, but if it pays off, that we're financially free or we're 5 years ahead of what our goals are. Yes, I would have taken more risks and just kind of given myself the encouragement and the confidence to do that.
Well, that's amazing. And I want to be mindful of your time here, and I could talk to you for hours and hours, but try to get you out of here. Omni, what book recommendation would you have for like our audience, and maybe one that you recommend the people that you talk to as a mentor to coach yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I coach from my book, The Cashflow Breakfast Club, and it's a great book on, real estate investing and financial freedom. But even better than that is one that I'm reading right now, and it's Alex Hormozy's new book, $100 Million Leads. Everything he does is so brilliant, and he's so genuine, and he's amazing at as a business person, not real estate, but starting with $100 million offers. And that's changed my life. I have done so much. I've pivoted, and my businesses and systems that I've been able to put in place based on that book has been amazing. And I'm already seeing, oh man, I had some blind spots here. And so $100 million leads will change your business and your mindset and just give you like so much value. So I encourage everyone, no matter what your industry, to read that.
And he does such a great job at writing easy to read books. Even the format, it's a larger format. There's a bunch of seemingly hand-drawn, pictures and things like that in the book. I haven't read his second one yet. I read the first one, which I loved, but yeah, it's a great book. And his resources online are amazing as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
How about a piece of, technology, a tool, an app, something that you like to use or have been using that's helped you kind of manage your life and your success?
Yeah, the right CRM is crucial, no matter your business. And so having a real estate brokerage business, I had a team, I had an office, my own office at some point, a solo agent. I've had ancillary real estate and non-real estate related businesses, and then obviously my investing business. Every single one of them needs a different CRM. So the ability to source and identify CRMs are crucial. I've basically over the last couple of years worked on developing our own CRM system to kind of match across the board. Pulling another CRM system and being able to customize that and make it your own is crucial. So I think any amount of effort you put into that when you're working on your business is worth it. And it's daunting for most people, but me opening that up changed everything for me to kind of create cross-platform across my businesses. And then from a real estate investor standpoint, the one tool that I don't think I could live without is PropStream. There's many data tools out there, but PropStream has been like my go-to for data. So anyone within real estate, having the right data source, lead skip tracing source is crucial.
It's a fantastic tool. How about your CRM? Did you say you're building one that you want to offer and sell to others, or did you mean you're building evolved one CRM for your own needs that you use internally?
Yeah, it's for our own needs, and we're not offering to sell it. So we maybe at some point we're looking at that at the moment, because every time you're fixing a problem, right? So I need a CRM for the wholesaling side of my business. I need a CRM for the fix and flip side of my business, and for my long-term rental side of my business, and syndication side. And so there's different for all of them. And technically I should use 8 different CRMs, but I'm like, how do I get one that I can have this arm for this arm for this? And although I'm not the one managing all of those, I need insight to all of that. And I don't want to log into 8 different CRMs. And so, we're creating one right now. We're probably 2 months into beta, and the amount of work and effort in terms of refining that, at some point we might offer it to at least our coaching clients or Cashflow Breakfast Club members. But we didn't start out with the goal of, we need to create we're not in a SaaS market. We're not in a technology, market. That's not who we are, but we solved the problem. It was our problem. And if there's anyone else that had our problem, could we fix it for them? Hopefully we can do that down the road. So I'll keep you in the loop if and when we end up doing that. But right now it's for our own services.
Absolutely. All right, Omni, last question for you here. How can our audience help you and reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to build my MySpace profile up right now. So anything you can do on MySpace, love. No,
let's
that's
do
my
it.
thing. Bring
it back.
I mean, I'm Omni the Invest. Yeah, exactly. I'm Omni the Investor Guy on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm not great on building that. I've been working on growing that. Amazing coaches and mentors, Brandon Turner being one of those, helping kind of through that. And YouTube, I'm trying to just put out content and add value. So through the Cashflow Breakfast Club and through the Omni the Investor Guy brands, you can get a hold of me, because it's me behind the team. I've got a few assistants and a few partners, but ultimately everything comes to me. So I'm happy to connect with you on any of those channels.
And it's also OmniTheInvestorGuy.com, right? Your website and landing page. There's a ton of helpful resources there.
OmniTheInvestorGuy.com and CashflowBreakfastClub.com. Anyone interested in opening up their own club, we're giving it away for free. We do free coaching, free training, help you run your own in-person, education event, give you content every single month. That's, my goal through the end of the year is give that away to as many people for free.
Fantastic. Omni, thank you so much for your time. What an inspirational story. Really appreciate you being here, and hopefully we'll have you on soon, or again soon, right, when you've, achieved even more success.
I appreciate it. Thank Nathan.
Thank you so much. Take care. Thanks for joining us today and being part of our conversation. We hope you enjoyed it. And as always, we've gathered all of the important links from today's show and put them in the show notes. And now, if we could ask you for one favor, if you found any value in this content, if you could like, subscribe, comment, share with others. You can find us here 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We look forward to hosting some future fantastic guests and stories, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.